So we already know in the U.S. and in many other jurisdictions that 3/4 of the market are not ICOs or not what could be called securities, even in the U.S., Canada, and Taiwan, the three jurisdictions that follow something similar to the Howey test that we've talked about. 3/4 of the market is non-securities. It's just a commodity, a cash crypto. So you'll hear debates about initial coin offerings and what's a security and what's not a security. Relevant and important debate, but for 3/4 of the market, it's not particularly relevant as a legal matter, as a regulatory matter.
Gary Gensler's tone has definitely changed on what cryptos are securities present day versus 5 years ago. In this clip, he's saying 75% are all securities. Today, almost all cryptos are securities. What's changed in the market? You be the judge. And with that, what's happening, crypto crew? Before we get started, we have a jam-packed video. You don't want to miss it. Check this out. Check the Bitcoin Bros out on Patreon. We just started it. You asked for it, so you get it. You can check us out in the pinned comment below, patreon.com/Bitcoin Bros. Getting straight into it, first big news. First Public, which is a bank, stock plummets almost 50% after revealing deposit exodus in March. And yes, you heard it here, another bank failure. And First Republic needs the government's help. What this means and why it matters. First Republic is currently in a state of limbo. Its future is highly uncertain, and that can't last forever. When the eventual resolution comes in a matter of days rather than weeks, if First Republic management gets its way, it will unavoidably have government fingerprints all over it. This is massive. This is major. This could be the second bank to fail in this house of cards. Now, the bigger picture is First Republic would almost certainly be insolvent if it had to sell all of its assets at their market value. That's eroding trust in the bank, which is good for Bitcoin. And they have two options. Option number one, First Republic fails. In this scenario, the government will face the choice of whether or not to extend FDIC insurance to all its uninsured depositors. That would cost more than $40 billion. Money printers turning back on. And most of that money would end up going back to the large banks led by JP Morgan, who deposited $30 billion at First Republic last month. On the other hand, if FDIC didn't declare First Republic systemic, then that would almost certainly precipitate another full-blown banking crisis. Option number two, which is the preferable outcome, is that First Republic doesn't fail. If it's recapitalized over the next few days, it's likely to retain both most of the financial advisors in its wealth management unit and the loyalty of a viable existing customer base. The longer it exists in the current zombie state, however, its franchise's values erode. So, if it's recapitalized over the next few days, so that is money printer go burr. Definitely bullish for crypto and Bitcoin specifically. Arthur Hayes weighed in on this. When the bank bites the dust, probably later this week, we will be closer to the market realizing the entire U.S. banking deposit system is de facto greed by the United States government. Massive inflationary. This is why some crypto assets and Bitcoin are on the rise. And as you see here, Bitcoin's back above 28,000 at 28.3. We'll look at this chart here in a second. We have something important to show you in this chart, a very huge indicator. Before we get to that, an update stating that tomorrow U.S. senators, congressmen, and industry leaders will meet at the Bitcoin Policy Summit in D.C. to discuss Bitcoin. Is it time for the U.S. to embrace Bitcoin? Will this happen? Will this be the next catalyst? Will the United States government change its tone? Will we get regulatory clarity? There's a whole bunch of question marks. We don't know until we know. In the meantime, in between time, Samson Mao is speaking in front of the Mexican government. Let's hear what he has to say.
So there are a number of things a nation state can do to adopt a Bitcoin strategy. The simplest one would simply be to add Bitcoin to the national treasury as a reserve asset, similar to gold or foreign currency reserves. And then the next one, I believe to be relatively simple to do, is to issue an instrument such as a Bitcoin bond to accumulate Bitcoin and to mine Bitcoin. So Mexico is an energy-rich country, And issuing a Bitcoin bond would be very simple to do here.
So there you hear it from Sam Simao, and he's talking about why governments globally, specifically Mexico in this case, should adopt a Bitcoin standard, Bitcoin bonds, and just fully embracing Bitcoin. Will this happen? There's talks in front of governments, there's meetings with U.S. senators and congressmen. Is all the writing on the wall of what's to come for Bitcoin? An update from Mitchell Hodl. The marginal cost to produce a unit of Bitcoin is programmatically doubled every 4 years. Despite fewer Bitcoin being produced, annual miner revenue in dollar terms has grown at an exponential rate. Bitcoin has a psychopathic base of hodlers which always demand more Bitcoin due to its processing superior monetary properties and the ability to be securely stored and transferred without incurring counterparty risk. Assuming zero new hodlers are the last resort, in order for miner revenue to maintain its historic growth, we can expect the following price ranges for Bitcoin over the next halving cycles. Check this out. Between 2024 and 2028, the range would be $37,000 to $325,000. 2028 to 2032, the range is $325,000 to $2.8 million. And then from 2032 to 2036, you're looking at $2.8 million to $24 million. If these numbers hold and this logarithmic growth curve continue, do you think that this is projections on where Bitcoin could go? An update from TA Analyst, what he's saying is this bull market is about to begin. That price target is coming up to that $350,000. Is that where Bitcoin is going to go? Well, we looked at this chart a little bit closer, and if you zoom in, he has these peaks where the two circles overlap one another. That's where the peaks are, if you just look back in the charts. And if you see where this overlaps and then just look straight down, that'll be right around the 2024 halving. So we're not sure if we agree with this chart. It looks nice to eye, but don't think it's going to happen that soon. We'll see if 350 is that price target. And then looking at the Bitcoin price chart, what do we see here and why do we care? Look at here, zoom into the price action. We have the Gaussian channels out, and Bitcoin is back up into the red range. And then it could be, Bitcoin came back down. Looks like it is flipping this mid-range of the red range. Could come back down and retest it to a low about 26,000 before it has that bump and run pattern and then flips back green. Well, let's look back in the charts. Every single time Bitcoin went below the red and came back up into it, what did it do? Every single time, right here, we came back up into it, retested the mid-range, retested the top range, and then blasted off to the bull market. The time after that, 2018-19, came back up. We had a brief test of the mid-range, top range, and then blast off. Well, if history's any indication, zoom into where we are right now. We come back in, retest this mid-range. We'll have a blast up. We could go potentially up to maybe 34, 35,000 before then coming back down, retesting that top range, and then the bull run is going to really be on when this fully flips green. Right now is the best time to start accumulating if you haven't started already. And with that, I'm Sean with the Bitcoin Bros. Before we go, don't forget to check us out on Patreon, linked in the comment below. If you guys like this content, go ahead and smash the like button. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, go ahead and show us some love. We appreciate the support. With that, that's all I have for you today, and I'm out.